Holy shit. 2023 got off to a terrible start.
Welcome to Creative Ops, a podcast for creative people.
Hey everybody, welcome to Creative Ops, a show that is hosted by a writer, musician, and all-around creative dude, me, Christopher Talon.
How's it going?
So this time I would like to talk about creativity and how you can boost your creativity, but first, here's a little bit of what I've been up to since the break that I've been on. I've been working on the new book. I've been making some music for other podcasts and people who are going to be using it for internet projects, and I'll talk about that when I can. It's just been it's been a fun, creative break. I've had the one show back since coming back this year with Jason Demon. That show is awesome. I love that dude. Please check him out and all the stuff that he does. And before I get started with this episode of How to Be More Creative, I give one or two quick shout-outs. Nick at Old Growth Creative on Instagram. Check him out. He bought my truck. He's a really talented artist and a really cool guy. At Old Growth Creative. And also shout out to Heather, who works at the Grandville library, because she helped me get into one of the rooms to record a podcast with Jody Sperling, which will be out pretty soon. So look at the TRBM podcast. I'll be intermittently co-hosting that. And now a word from some awesome people.
Hey, I'm Mike. And I'm Jason, and we're the hosts of the Threads podcast, Life Unfiltered.
And we are on a mission to rid the world of Facebook fake, Instagram ickies, and Twitter takes.
And we do this through unfiltered dialogue about faith, mental health, and uncomfortable conversations.
And sometimes we talk about really deep and serious topics.
And sometimes we talk about stupid stuff and make jokes and talk about our lifelong goal of being great at fitness.
But no matter what, we are unfiltered as we talk. So we hope that you join us on the journey.
Those guys are great. Please check out Threads podcast, Life Unfiltered. I've been on the show a couple of times, and Jason, who you heard one half of there, is the guy who basically got me into podcasting. So big shout out to those guys, Jason in particular. All right, let's start the show. All right, folks, the first thing I've got comes from Grand Canyon University. In order to become more creative, you need to practice, find quality in quantity, which means, and this is a big one for writers too especially, don't just sit there and be like, I have to work on this one thing and make this one thing perfect and only ever just do this one thing, and then you'll find yourself 4 years later still working on that one thing. Do things, get stuff done. Get through it. Not everything's going to be awesome. Just get through stuff. You'll eventually come to something that's like, ooh, this is awesome. And then you spend more time on that. Look for inspiration in ordinary things. Not everything has to be, oh, nobody's ever heard of this before. Sometimes, find inspiration in the ordinary things. Collaborate. Get outside of your head.
Get into somebody else's. Let somebody else into yours.
Experiment. Be confident. Easier said than done, right? Obviously, everyone's out there worried like,
oh, somebody's going to say something bad about my stuff.
I mean, yeah, maybe, but that's what the risk you take. And usually the people that are out there saying bad stuff are the non-creative types or the people who wish they were more creative. Don't worry about them. And then the last thing from Grand Canyon University is to take a step back from what you're working on from time to time. It does not behoove you to work on something until you're burnt out. Burnout is kind of the thing you want to avoid.
Bruh.
The next little bit comes from TED.com. It says that you should practice off-the-wall thinking, which the Collins English Dictionary defines off-the-wall as an idea that you are critical of because you think it's crazy or foolish. Kind of like me. I wrote a time travel novel. I don't believe in time travel, or at least not as anything more than something hypothetical. But I was like,
You know what? Let's make it real for the sake of telling a story.
and I think it came out well. You should buy my book. Anyway, the next thing is good mood. A good mood increases your creativity. Conversely, being in a bad mood increases your analytical thinking, which is probably why when I get mad at something, the first thing I want to do is go and research it so that I can fully understand it and hate it on a more deep level. But I'm not doing a whole lot of creative thinking in that mode. When I'm in a good mood and I feel kind of silly, like I do right now, that's usually when my best stuff comes out. And hey, I'm sorry if this is my best stuff and you don't think it's that good. It's get in a better mood. Okay, sleep, exercise, mindfulness, and gratitude are all things that they promote to make yourself feel better, because feeling better creates better creativity. Real quick, I'm just going to say, if you don't get enough sleep and exercise, try. But mindfulness is more or less meditating and just kind of focusing on how you feel, letting your thoughts kind of come, accept them, acknowledge them, and let them go. It's a fun thing. I wrote a blog about it for somebody else. I'll write a link to that. So in the show notes, if you're like,
what is mindfulness?
I'll give you a whole thing on how to get started with it. And then the last thing, though, gratitude, that's something anybody can do. Just try to take a small amount of time in the day, preferably early, closer to when you wake up, maybe while you're waiting for your coffee or whatever to brew. And just be thankful for stuff. I have all these things that I want, but I honestly feel like I'm at this point now in my life where I don't need anything else. I just would like a few things. And if I get them or I don't, whatever. But yeah, I don't think life could get much better than it is now. There could be some... definitely could be some cherries on top, but things are good. So take time and appreciate those good things. And then non-time. Schedule time for non-time. I had to look into this myself. Non-time is basically any time where the outside world just has no hold on you whatsoever, and you can do whatever you want. So whether that's, I know some people wake up and do creative stuff at like 4 a.m. before anybody else is awake. Some people stay up late, or some people are just really good at managing themselves and their devices and can carve out time in the middle of the day. But whatever that time is, it doesn't even have to be productive. It's just time where you're like, the outside world doesn't matter.
All I'm going to focus on is my creative stuff. And if I only write one sentence or come up with an outline for a painting without even putting pen to paper or paint to paper or whatever, that's fine. That was time well spent.
Don't be critical of it. Just the fact that you put that time aside is a good thing. The next one is solitude. A 2012 study from the University of Utah shows that people were more creative, they tested them before and after, 4 days alone in nature. So solitude and nature are a good thing for the creative mind. And I would say probably for anybody, but that's why we're listening right now, is for the creative mind. So deal with it. And then the last one that I'm going to talk about from TED.com comes from a jazz analogy by Charles Mingus, who was a bassist, pianist, composer, bandleader, and author, who said, "You can't improvise on nothing." So not everything has to be off the wall. Some things can be inside the box, and then from that, you can draw more inspiration and go more outlandish. But, you got to start with something. All right, there's 2 more things. These ones from entrepreneur.com. You don't say that other R. You just say it like entrepreneur. I don't know. 1, take on new challenges. It just opens your mind, makes you think differently, and it's good for you all the way around. Last one I'm going to hit is change your surroundings. Every now and then I'll go and I'll write somewhere that I haven't written before, or back to a place that's just different from the place I usually write. And every now and then I'll ask a friend, hey, can I come do a writing weekend and just kind of hang out at your place and write? I've done that several times, and I get a ton of work done that way. It's just, I think it's healthy. Good to get out, break your routine, even if the broken part of the routine is just, instead of doing it in A, now I'm doing it in B. Simple. All right, guys. That's all I got. This song that you're hearing right now is made by Kirk Ross from A Talk in the Attic. It's a great show. You should check that one out. Also listen to Threads podcast, Life Unfiltered, and check out The Reluctant Book Marketer, the TRBM podcast, which I mentioned earlier I'll be the intermittent co-host of. I'll have other links up there, too, like you can see Nick from Old Growth Creative and that mindfulness link that I was talking about, and anything else that I might have mentioned in there. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Mwah.
Yeah, man. Weird, right?